Try to make sure the balance is right. Jab, 2 times, and like this. Then I start going this way, jab. It's like, it's always gonna be somebody older than somebody in this life. You're never gonna be the youngest and you're never gonna be the oldest. And so you have an example on both sides that, you know, if you don't pay attention and you don't know you well, can you do it?
Mike Tyson is 58 years old and he's training like his life depends on it for a fight that everyone says will never happen. But here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't just about money or nostalgia. This is about 2 legends who refuse to accept that father time has caught up with them, and what I'm seeing in these training videos is absolutely wild. Evander Holyfield, the man who literally bit a chunk out of Tyson's ear, is now in his corner sharing secrets that could change everything. The same guy who exposed Tyson's weaknesses 27 years ago is now teaching him how to exploit Floyd Mayweather's. You can't make this stuff up.
Here, then you step to the right, and you just try to make a complete circle. And it's just all about making the circle and go back here, just a woman.
Watch Tyson absorbing every single piece of advice from Holyfield like his career depends on it. Because honestly, it does. This isn't the cocky young destroyer who terrorized the heavyweight division in the 80s. This is a man who understands he's got one last shot to prove something to himself and the world. Holyfield is drilling him on footwork, teaching him patience, showing him angles he never had to use when he could just walk through opponents with raw power. And get this, sources close to the camp say Tyson is training harder now than he did for some of his actual championship fights. He's in the gym 6 hours a day, doing cardio work that would break fighters half his age. The discipline is scary, the focus is laser sharp, and the speed, still there. Diminished, sure, but when you see those hands flying on the heavy bag, you remember why this man was the most feared fighter on the planet.
It's about your legs and getting your posture. Your posture straight and making sure you got a good midsection. You got to tighten that stomach up. And that's what a lot of times people don't understand.
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Evander Holyfield is on record saying that fighting at this age isn't as dangerous as people think. Quote, "Fear only exists if you allow it, but courage makes the fight real." This is coming from a guy who fought professionally until he was 48, who took punishment that would hospitalize normal humans, and who's seen what happens when old lions try to hunt one more time. He's basically giving Tyson permission to believe in something everyone else is calling impossible. And Tyson, he's eating it up. You can see it in his eyes during training. That fire that made him the youngest heavyweight champion in history, it's still burning. Maybe not as bright, maybe not as hot, but it's there. And that's what makes this whole situation so fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
If you allow yourself to do that, it's up to me to allow myself to be afraid. I'm talking about at any given time, anything. Whether I know how to do it or not. You know, the Bible said, "Fear not." It's up to you to fear. That's a choice. It's not that you have to, but in any situation, when it comes down, when you really want to do something real well, you know, fear is just right there, like that, ready to catch you if you heed to it. When you're young, you make mistakes, and when you're older, you make mistakes. Sometimes people forget about when you get older. But you know, you have a choice to make. You know, it's a choice you have to make, and you have to be honest with yourself. When honesty comes from yourself, then you ain't gonna do nothing to prove a lot of people.
Now listen to this part. Gene Kilroy, Muhammad Ali's former business manager and one of the most respected voices in boxing, is also in Tyson's corner for this camp. This man has seen greatness up close for decades. He knows what real championship mentality looks like, and he's pouring all of that wisdom into Tyson's preparation. Kilroy is the guy who motivated Ali through some of his toughest training camps, who understood the psychology of what it takes to perform when the whole world is watching. And he's treating this exhibition like it's a real championship fight. The motivation sessions are intense. The confidence building is relentless. Sources say Kilroy has Tyson believing he's still the best heavyweight who ever lived, which sounds crazy until you remember that confidence was always Tyson's greatest weapon. When he believed he was unstoppable, he usually was.
Theater that Corbin fought Mike, he's like, Yeah, such as he said the right name. I was like, God, I could never get him. I could never get him.
Here's the kicker, though. Daniel Cormier, former UFC double champion and one of the sharpest analytical minds in combat sports, just broke down exactly why this matchup is so compelling. And his take is blowing up everywhere because it makes perfect sense. Cormier points out that we've never seen anything like this size and style differential in a high-profile bout. Tyson built his entire legacy as a heavyweight powerhouse who could end fights with one shot. Mayweather constructed his greatness across much lighter divisions, starting around 130 pounds and never coming close to heavyweight territory. It's not just the physical difference, though that's massive. It's the complete contrast in fighting philosophy. One man spent his career overwhelming opponents with explosive force and intimidation. The other mastered the art of making opponents miss, controlling distance, and winning through superior ring IQ.
Only champ. You ain't got nothing to look to. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my turn now. How about that? That's what ultimately, when you say the world champ, you don't want to see somebody else across the street say, I'm the champ too. I ain't the world, he say he's the world champ.
And get this, Cormier explains that their professional journeys developed under completely different conditions. Different eras, different styles of competition, different types of opponents. Tyson rose to fame through those legendary first-round knockouts that left audiences stunned and opponents unconscious. Mayweather built his reputation by making elite fighters look ordinary, by solving every puzzle put in front of him, by never losing control of a fight even when behind on the scorecards. That stylistic divide creates genuine intrigue because nobody really knows what happens when unstoppable force meets immovable object, especially when both forces are operating decades past their prime. The variables are insane. Does Tyson's power translate at this age? Can Mayweather's legs hold up against a man who's naturally 50 pounds heavier?
Nice one, Mike. Nice one, Mike. That's the best one. Bro, stop it! Hey, push on! Isso, that's it! Bro! What a shot! Boy! Beautiful. Beautiful.
Look where your left hook is when you finish, Mike.
But wait, it gets worse. The criticism surrounding this fight is absolutely brutal, and some of it's coming from people who should know better. Combat sports commentator Wade Plemons just went off about how exhibitions like this diminish the legacies of legendary fighters. He's comparing it to the Holyfield-Belfort disaster under the Triller banner, where we watched a former champion get embarrassed by a guy who never should have been in the same ring with him during his prime. Plemons argues that these spectacles allow fresher opponents to claim victories that would never have occurred in a real prime versus prime scenario. And honestly, he's got a point. But he's also missing something huge, because this isn't Holyfield fighting some random MMA guy. This is two all-time greats who are both dealing with the same enemy time.
How old you are, it's how old you feel.
I don't feel what the word old. I don't feel that.
No. Well, you're smart going into the new wave.
No, it's always the old wave. It's always this.
Yeah.
I could do all this stuff and I have this and this.
Yeah, that's what you need. The will determine the skill.
Yes.
The story of success is be around successful people.
I don't believe that.
No. What can you lose? What can you win from a loser?
Huh? You can learn how not to lose.
Huh?
You can learn how not to lose.
Okay, you learn how not to lose,
Yeah.
but you don't,
You get more out of losing than you do out of winning.
Okay, you're my friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a heart operation.
Yeah.
But there's a good guy's going to operate on me. Nice guy, nice guy. But there's another guy's who did 20 operations. Who are you going to recommend?
Hold up, did you catch what's really happening here? While everyone's debating whether these guys are too old, whether this is good for boxing, whether it's just a money grab, they're missing the actual story. Tyson is 58. Mayweather is 48. That's an 11-year age gap, which in boxing years might as well be a generation. In a sport where reflexes are everything, where a split-second hesitation can mean the difference between glory and catastrophe, age becomes the ultimate equalizer. But here's what's fascinating. Both men are dealing with father time differently. Tyson's approach is to train like he's still 25, to push his body beyond what anyone thinks is reasonable, to bet everything on the idea that his natural power and aggression can overcome diminished speed. Mayweather's betting on his boxing IQ, on the idea that ring intelligence and technical superiority can compensate for whatever physical decline he's experienced.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's reverse. I love it.
20 seconds. And then the end. It's just like that.
You did more workouts than what I seen you than the whole time you fought Lennox Lewis. Am I right or wrong?
Different era, brother.
It's a whole new ball game. I'm proud of you, Mike.
Now here's something nobody's talking about, but everyone should be. The financial incentives behind this fight are absolutely staggering, and they explain everything about why this is happening now. Sources close to both camps suggest the purse could exceed $50 million each. $50 million for an exhibition. That's more money than most active champions make in their entire careers. But it's not just about the immediate payday. Both fighters are looking at this as a legacy play, a chance to control how their stories end. Tyson's been open about his financial struggles over the years, about the money he lost, about the need to secure his family's future. Mayweather's always been about the money, but even he understands that his earning potential won't last forever. This fight represents something bigger than just another exhibition. It's their chance to go out on their own terms, with their own narrative, making their own money.
It's a war.
Only left the fuck alone.
You gotta really believe that. It's all I ever lived for. It's all I ever lived for. Doubt should be eliminated. You should be a doubt annihilator.
My mentor told me, look, that little man, I want it all.
I want it all. You be careful what you wish for. You kill people in the ring, you should kill doubt in your mind and in your soul and your heart.
Listen to what's really wild about this whole situation. The training footage coming out of both camps suggests these guys are taking this more seriously than anyone expected. Tyson's doing heavy dumbbell work that would challenge fighters half his age. His conditioning looks better than it did during some of his actual comeback attempts. The speed on the pads is diminished but still dangerous. The power is clearly still there. Meanwhile, Mayweather's been posting workout videos that show he hasn't lost a step in terms of hand speed and defensive reflexes. His footwork looks sharp. His timing appears intact. What started as what everyone assumed would be a controlled sparring session is starting to look like both men are preparing for an actual fight. And that changes everything about how we should be viewing this event.
Don't fight, I give you money. Are you f***ing crazy?
Only 12. That's all we want. To the middle. 1, 2, 3,
A little slow on the way down.
4. There we go. 9. One more.
Slow.
10. No problem. Great set. Best set yet. Final round. Last one. Nice and strong. 30 times. Touch and go. 1, 2. Here we go. 3, 4. Nice. 5. Yes, sir. 6, 7.
Strong.
8. Strong. 9. You got this.
We go.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go. 8, 9. One more. Get up. Nice work, Mike. Yes, sir.
But here's where things get absolutely insane. The window for fighters to earn substantial income at the highest level closes faster than in any other sport. Careers are short. Primes are shorter. The ability to generate massive paydays can disappear overnight due to one bad performance, one serious injury, one shift in public interest. If recognizable names can still generate interest and draw audiences in a controlled exhibition setting, why shouldn't they? These men sacrificed their bodies, their health, their normal lives to entertain us for decades. They endured punishing training camps, absorbed life-altering damage, dealt with the pressure of performing when millions of people were watching. If they can still draw an audience, if people are still willing to pay to see them compete, shouldn't they have the right to capitalize on the legacies they built through blood, sweat, and sacrifice?
Was fighting at 154, and he was severely undersized at 154. Floyd Mayweather was a guy that fought in the 130s to start his career, and then fought up as high as 160 maybe. Floyd Mayweather was a small guy. He's now going to fight Mike Tyson, who is the heavyweight champion of the world. I respect these two men so great a degree that it's hard for me to almost make negative statements about them. But I think that our job as talking heads is to tell you the truth, regardless of how much you admire someone or the applause and adulation you have for them. You got to tell them the truth. I don't get this. I don't get this for the life of me, because by all...
And here's something that's being completely overlooked in all the criticism and debate. Veteran athletes understand the risks better than anyone. Tyson and Mayweather have endured more rigorous training camps, absorbed more punishment, dealt with more championship pressure than 99.9% of people on Earth. They know exactly what participation entails. They're not naive kids being exploited by promoters. They're grown men making calculated decisions about their own bodies, their own legacies, their own financial futures. For many fighters, these exhibitions represent celebration, closure, and a final opportunity to connect with fans who supported their journey. The autonomy argument is huge here. If they want to fight, if they're medically cleared, if they understand the risks, who are we to tell them they can't?
Life on track, has a great wife that helps him manage all those things, made a boatload of money to fight Jake Paul last year. It's not a money play. Floyd, I saw a thing this morning, him talking about keeping his money clean, stuffing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a plastic bag. These guys don't need money. A lot of times when you get these great champions fighting well past their prime, it's to make cash. We see it a lot. These two don't seem to need the money. So I don't understand the need to do this. When talked about, Mike Tyson said, I still can't believe Floyd wants to really do this. It's going to be detrimental to his health, but he wants to do it. So it's signed and it's happening. Hey.
So there you have it. Two legends refusing to go quietly into retirement, training like their lives depend on it for a fight that defies every conventional wisdom about combat sports. The age gap is massive, the styles are completely contrasting, and the financial stakes are higher than most championship fights. This isn't just about boxing anymore. This is about legacy, about refusing to accept limitations, about proving that greatness doesn't have an expiration date. And honestly, whether you think it's brilliant or completely insane, you're going to watch. We all are. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think exhibitions like this honor the legacies of great fighters, or do they diminish what they accomplished in their primes? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really at stake here, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.
Let them get their money. They're gonna make a lot of money. Mike Tyson makes the money to give to his kids. Floyd makes the money to show us, right? Let them make their money. Why not? It's the exhibition style. They got history. They don't like each other. They are two of the biggest imposing figures in boxing history. Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, and Muhammad Ali, right? So they're going to make a lot of money. A lot of people going to tune in, and they're going to watch it. They don't like each other. So even though it's an exhibition style, you best believe it's not going to count against their actual record, but it's a real fight. And Mike Tyson is not going to hold back no punches like he did with Jake Paul.
And speaking of what's just getting started, let me tell you what I discovered when I dug deeper into the actual science behind what these two are attempting. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who studied athletic performance and aging for decades, just published research that completely changes how we should think about combat sports after 40. Her findings are mind-blowing. While reaction time does decline with age, The rate of decline varies dramatically based on training intensity and neuroplasticity maintenance. Fighters who continue high-level training can maintain reaction speeds that are still superior to untrained individuals in their 20s. But here's the kicker. The study specifically noted that combat athletes show different aging patterns in their nervous systems compared to regular people. Years of split-second decision-making under extreme pressure literally rewires the brain in ways that can provide advantages even as physical capabilities decline.
This is going to be a real fight. Once it's exhibition style, so it won't count against their box rec, and it's not sanctioned by a commission or any of that or that. But you best believe they're gonna want to. So they're gonna make a lot of money, and it's gonna be entertaining because they don't like each other. There's bad blood. They're gonna let them fly, and neither one of them wants to go home saying they lost to the other one. Mike Tyson has been, making passes at trying to. He wanted to hit Floyd at the WBC convention. Remember that famous epic moment where he walks up past Floyd and he's receiving his belt and he just flinches at Floyd, and Floyd don't budge. You're just looking at him, right? Mike Tyson always say he a scared little man walking around with all the security. They don't like each other. It's bad.
Now get this part, because it's absolutely crucial to understanding why this fight makes sense from a competitive standpoint. The Nevada Athletic Commission has implemented specific protocols for exhibitions involving fighters over 45. These aren't just random safety measures. They're based on extensive medical research about how aging affects different aspects of fighting ability. Cardiovascular function, bone density, recovery time, neurological response. Everything gets evaluated differently. But here's what's fascinating about the data they've collected over the past 5 years of sanctioning these types of events. Injury rates in properly supervised exhibitions between veteran fighters are actually lower than in many amateur boxing matches. The experience factor is huge. These guys know how to protect themselves in ways that younger, less experienced fighters simply don't understand yet.
To be, though, is less so a fight promotion and more so rights holders. They hold the global rights to HBO World Championship Boxing and a number of other Comcast events. Basically, their business is they lease out the rights for footage to old fights to different networks or entities. So it is a bit weird to see them involved in a fight which I would have to assume the cost would be close to 9 figures to stage. It's just honestly puzzling, but seeing there's apparently more information about broadcast partnerships to come, I guess we'll see soon who else is in.
But wait until you hear what former heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis just said about this matchup, because his perspective is changing everything about how serious boxing analysts are taking this event. Lewis pointed out something that nobody else has mentioned. Both Tyson and Mayweather spent their entire careers adapting to different opponents, different styles, different challenges. That adaptability doesn't just disappear with age. If anything, it becomes more refined, more strategic, more calculated. Lewis specifically mentioned that Tyson's biggest advantage isn't his power anymore, it's his ability to read opponents and adjust his approach based on what he sees. Meanwhile, Mayweather's greatest strength was never just his physical abilities. It was his ring IQ, his ability to solve problems in real time. Those mental advantages don't decline at the same rate as physical attributes, which means this fight could be far more competitive than anyone realizes.
Set the groundwork to show just how big an exhibition fight can truly be. Now, exhibitions are a thing we've seen throughout the history of boxing. It's nothing new. Even the great Ali ended up in odd exhibitions for big paydays. Yet what Paul Tyson showed is you can take a fighter like Tyson, who doesn't have much left to give, and whip up a promotion to make the public believe he's back in his prime, and as a result do some of the biggest numbers seen in the last decade. The quality of the fight itself doesn't matter because, hey, you're already watching. And at a guess, that's exactly what they're gonna try to do here. In the press release, they didn't really talk about how great of a fight it's gonna be, rather how robust their promotional campaign will be, with weekly premium storytelling, which, of course...
Here's something that's going to blow your mind about the preparation both fighters are doing. Sports science has evolved dramatically since these guys were in their primes. The recovery methods, the training techniques, the nutritional protocols, everything is more advanced now than it was 20 years ago. Tyson's working with specialists who use cryotherapy, hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and targeted hormone optimization to help his body perform at levels that would have been impossible during his original career. We're talking about recovery techniques that can literally reverse some aspects of aging-related decline in athletic performance. Mayweather's been ahead of this curve for years, investing millions in cutting-edge training technology and recovery systems. The question isn't whether they're too old. It's whether modern sports science can help them perform better at their current ages than some fighters did in their supposed primes using outdated training methods.
Outside of watching Mike Tyson walk to the ring and the idea that maybe he'll knock out the little guy in Floyd that Tyson for a long time didn't like. For a long time called Floyd a small little angry man or a small little scared man because he couldn't walk his kids to school by himself, mainly because Floyd had, he kind of disrespected Muhammad Ali, who was Mike Tyson's favorite fighter and one that he would never put himself above. But Mike's 60 years old, and if there was a time for Mike to get him and knock him out or whatever, it never would have happened because they were in completely different weight classes and XYZ. If you wanted to settle it outside of boxing, that's one thing, but now they're stepping into this exhibition. There's not going to be any weight classes, obviously, and there's not going to be really any winner to this, and I think we're all going to lose. I think us, the fans, are going to lose a big time because, again, I told you guys years ago that there is a certain brand of combat sports that does diminish fighters of the past, and it's the crossover scene.
And here's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Jake Paul, who's been criticized for fighting older opponents, just came out with a statement that actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. He pointed out that combat sports has always been about entertainment value, not just pure athletic competition. People aren't buying tickets to watch the most technically perfect fight possible. They're paying to see compelling matchups between fighters they care about. The emotional investment fans have in Tyson and Mayweather is massive. These are fighters who defined eras, who created memories that lasted decades, who represent something larger than just athletic achievement. When Paul fights a veteran like Ben Askren or Anderson Silva, he's not trying to prove he's better than they were in their primes. He's creating entertainment that capitalizes on the legacy and name recognition these fighters built over their careers.
My entire existence on YouTube, but I can still stand here and tell you that there are certain fights that just shouldn't happen. Evander Holyfield should not have been fighting Vitor Belfort on whatever that triad promotion was. I think it was on Triller, and he looked awful because he was in his 60s, and Vitor got to say he knocked down and knocked out Evander Holyfield. And everybody knows that in Evander Holyfield's prime, he would have done work to Vitor Belfort in boxing. Same with this right here. This never would have been a prime for prime matchup. It would have made no sense to have happened. But if it did, Mike Tyson at 215 pounds, should he land at all on Floyd Mayweather, was going to send him to a different stratosphere. Now, again, we understand the reasoning behind this, and I want both guys to get paid, but this is going to be sad. And this is why I said sometimes you need to preserve your legacy. And I know Floyd says, legacy don't pay my bills, and clearly he's got a lot to pay.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.
But here's what's really driving the criticism, and it's something nobody wants to admit out loud. There's a generational divide in how people view these exhibitions, and it's creating massive tension in the boxing community. Older fans remember when Tyson was knocking people unconscious in 30 seconds, when Mayweather was making elite fighters look like amateurs. They have emotional attachments to these legacies that make it painful to watch diminished versions of their heroes. Younger fans, especially those who got into combat sports through social media and modern promotion, see these exhibitions as entertainment events first and athletic competitions second. Neither perspective is wrong, but they're creating completely different expectations for what these fights should be. The older generation wants to preserve the sanctity of what these men accomplished. The younger generation wants to see compelling content regardless of whether it matches historical greatness. Now here's something absolutely wild that just happened behind the scenes. According to sources close to both training camps, this exhibition has generated more legitimate interest from major networks than most actual championship fights this year. We're talking about streaming numbers that could break records, pay-per-view projections that exceed anything we've seen outside of McGregor fights, and international broadcast deals that span every major market. The business side of this is staggering because it proves something important about combat sports name recognition, and storylines matter more than rankings or technical perfect matchmaking. Casual fans don't care about pound-for-pound lists or who the current IBF champion is. They care about fighters they know, fighters who created moments they remember, fighters whose names mean something beyond just their recent performance record. Listen to this part because it explains everything about why exhibitions like this are becoming more common and more lucrative. The traditional boxing promotion model is broken. Fighters spend years building records against unknown opponents, working their way through confusing ranking systems, dealing with multiple sanctioning bodies that nobody outside hardcore fans understands. Meanwhile, social media has created a direct connection between personalities and audiences that bypasses all the traditional gatekeepers. A fighter with name recognition can generate more interest in a single Instagram post than most champions create in entire promotional campaigns. Tyson has over 20 million followers across social platforms. Mayweather has even more. When they post training videos or talk about potential fights, it reaches audiences that traditional boxing promotion could never access. That's not a criticism of the sport. It's just the reality of how entertainment works in 2024. And here's what makes this particular matchup so genius from a promotional standpoint. Both fighters represent different eras of boxing greatness, different approaches to the sport, different types of fan bases. Tyson appeals to people who love raw power, intimidation, and the idea of fights ending in spectacular fashion. Mayweather appeals to people who appreciate technical mastery, defensive brilliance, and strategic dominance. Combining those fan bases creates an audience that's much larger than either fighter could draw individually at this stage of their careers. It's not just addition, it's multiplication. People who might not pay to watch either man fight a random opponent will absolutely pay to see them fight each other, regardless of their current ages or abilities. The curiosity factor alone is worth the price of admission for millions of people. But here's where things get really interesting from a competitive analysis standpoint. Both fighters are dealing with the same fundamental challenge. How do you maintain effectiveness when your physical tools aren't what they used to be? But they're approaching that challenge in completely different ways, and that creates genuine intrigue about what happens when their strategies collide. Tyson's betting that aggression and power can overcome diminished speed and stamina. He's training to be explosive in short bursts, to create early opportunities, to end things quickly before his limitations become factors. Mayweather's betting on experience and ring IQ, on the idea that technical superiority and fight management can control the pace and distance in ways that neutralize whatever advantages Tyson might still possess. Those are legitimate strategic approaches that could produce a genuinely competitive and entertaining fight. So here's my final thought on this whole situation, and it's something I want you to really consider. Combat sports has always been about more than just determining who the best fighter is at any given moment. It's about stories, personalities, legacies, and the human drama of people pushing themselves to absolute limits. Tyson and Mayweather earned the right to write their own endings through decades of excellence, sacrifice, and entertainment. If they want to step back into the ring one more time, if they're willing to accept the risks and put in the work, if they can still draw audiences and create compelling television, maybe we should celebrate that instead of criticizing it. These men gave us some of the greatest moments in sports history. The least we can do is let them decide how their stories end.